Hey guys, I'm Platinum Producer LMC and welcome to part 1 of the Unison Beatmaking Secrets preview series. In this series, I'm going to be showing you how I landed placements with DaBaby, Gucci Mane, Moneybagg Yo, and Lil Skies. Basically how I started making music was I was a skater, I didn't make music. I always loved hip hop, you know, and hip hop is heavily infused in the skateboarding culture. I was a hip hop fan. I never created hip hop. I never thought I would be creating hip hop. When you skate, you break things. So I broke my leg like twice, maybe 3 times. I can't actually remember. During those times, you know, I had nothing to do because obviously I couldn't skate. I sold my Xbox, I bought an MPC 1000 and I started making beats like I saw on the skate videos. The music kind of took over the skating, and so it ended up being that breaking my leg was the best thing ever to happen to me, because I would not be here in front of you today speaking about how I make music. So shout out skateboarding, and shout out to breaking my leg too. So for me, my number one struggle as a producer was comparing myself to others, comparing my journey to maybe a 15-year-old platinum producer. You know, I had to realize not everything you see on social media is true. I have been at this for 10 years now. I didn't get my big song, my big break until about 5 to 6 years in. Your journey is personal to you. You don't have to compare yourself to others. If you stick at it long enough, you will get there. You will get a hint of success. You will get your break. So for me, my first breakthrough as a producer was about 9 years ago when I was able to work with a local rapper in my city. Now, I remember the feeling of sending him a beat and him rapping on it and hearing it back. It was amazing. I was high off of the adrenaline of actually getting this song with a local rapper that I loved and I enjoyed. It wasn't until about 5 or 6 years later that I actually got my first major placement. Now that was with Rich the Kid, which actually went on to be a platinum selling album. That was an amazing journey, but it did take me, you know, 5 to 6 years to get there. So my first taste of success was actually with that local rapper when I was first starting out. I got that feeling, I got that high. I got the same high that I actually did off getting the song with Rich the Kid. Man, kind of crazy. The DaBaby Call of Duty track, I love that track. It was super experimental. I don't usually make a lot of beats on a Sunday. I make that, you know, my rest day, my Sabbath day. This particular day, I opened up FL Studio and I made this really weird, wonky sounding loop, fully being experimental with it. And I think this is the perfect example of having fun and seeing what comes with it. I actually thought the loop was whack. But you know, I put it in a group of loops and I sent it to my friends, 2 producers. So they're 2 producers, but they also go by the name of 2 producers. So shout out to them. They placed it with DaBaby. So the process was a fun, you know, it was out of the blue. I really didn't expect this loop to get placed with a major artist. I was just having fun with it. And so if I could say anything, it is have fun with your music, you know, experiment. So the thought process behind the DaBaby loop is kind of weird. You know, I started off with a weird bell, a really wonky progression. You know, I usually have a lot of my loops centered and on the grid. For this, I didn't quantize it. I didn't do anything. I left it super messy. I put in some weird flute sound, one-shots, and all of that kind of thing, and it came out really well. So what I did was I sent the loop off as a starter to 2 producers who then added their flavor, and then DaBaby did his thing. And to me, it's just a classic DaBaby sounding track. So my thought process behind the Moneybagg Yo track is kind of crazy. It was maybe a year ago now, me and my wife started making vocal samples. So again, this is the perfect example of having fun with music and seeing what happens. So about a year ago now, we started doing vocal samples. We were using iPhone voice memo to record these, believe it or not. The vocal sample that you hear on Moneybagg Yo, Yo Gotti, Mozzie, 42 Doug, ESTG is recorded through iPhone voice memo. It was during the end of our COVID lockdown and we were bored, and so we're just experimenting, and I was like, hey, why don't you start singing some catchy loops? I'll resample them and I'll send them out and see what happens. And so that's exactly what happened. We recorded it on the iPhone. I mixed it pretty rough, to be honest, just because we were having fun and we were just trying to make new content. In turn, you know, it ended up being on this big track called Steppers. So shout out everyone involved on that track, my boy AOP, who also contributed to the loop, 30 Rock, who went crazy on the drums, and also India, who did the main vocal sample throughout the song. So I started off the loop by playing India a very simple chord progression. She then wrote to that chord progression. I recorded it on my very high-tech iPhone microphone, and then I imported it into FL Studio. Once I imported it into FL Studio, I did some slight EQ, added a compressor, pitched it up slightly, and there you go, I sent it out. One of the people I sent it out to was AOP. What he did was he added some more keys to the loop, and he then sent it to 30 Rock. 30 Rock did the drums, he went crazy on the drums, and he got the record placed. It's a real team effort here, and again, it's just a classic example of having fun, experimenting, and trying something new. So I really just want to encourage you guys, if you guys are at home and you don't have all the fancy equipment, you don't have the studio in the back, you don't need it. You just need your iPhone voice memo, you just need your FL Studio, your Ableton, Logic, whatever you use. You can get these big tracks, these major records. Me personally, a year ago, never would have thought I would hear my wife singing on a Moneybagg Yo track that we recorded on iPhone voice memo, that, you know, we barely mixed and that we barely spent any time with. I think she literally wrote the sample in like 5 minutes. It was crazy. Experiment, guys, have fun with it, and you never know where your loops, your beats, your sounds, your vocals will end up. Gucci Mane, Serial Killers. Man, when I heard I had a song with Gucci Mane, I almost fainted. I listened to all his mixtapes growing up. He was a big inspiration to me. To, you know, find out I had a song with one of the goats of hip hop, of trap music, was insane. It happened accidentally. It happened when I was having fun making music. So this happened back in lockdown. Me and my wife are doing vocal samples. We were really getting into it at this stage. We started doing them a couple of weeks before that, you know, just experimenting. When we did this particular vocal sample, we really started to get our flow. We started to get our own, you know, original sound going with them. We were sending out multiple vocals a week and seeing what happened with them. And so, like all of our vocals, even to this day, this was also recorded on the iPhone voice memo. So again, guys, if you're sitting at home not knowing, you know, how to record, not knowing what to do, remember, you can just have fun and literally use your iPhone voice memo. We were getting into the flow of writing these samples now. This particular vocal sample was sent out in a pack of 5. It was actually one of our favorites. We sent it out to YPM Carter. So YPM Carter got the record placed with Bandplay, who then sent it to Gucci. Again, it was a massive team effort. A lot of these big records come from collaboration and using your friends and your connections, having everyone benefit. We sent this to YPM Carter. He flipped it, he added some keys, he made it sound really moody, he added that hard piano in the background, mixed in with the bass. What Carter did then was he sent it to Bandplay. Bandplay works really closely with Key Glock, a lot of those kind of dudes. He sent it to Gucci and Gucci recorded on it. We got an email from the label saying, hey, we want to clear these vocals. Gucci Mane used them. And this is the moment I collapsed. Nah, I didn't actually collapse, but I felt like it. This particular song, the label actually sent through the full song, which was crazy. I got to hear it before it came out. They sent it through because they had to clear the vocals. In turn, we got this Gucci song. It came out. It was part of the 1017 compilation album, and that album actually just went gold. So crazy to think that from an iPhone voice memo, we got a gold plaque on the wall. Like, really insane. Honestly, still amazed to this day that it happened. I can't believe it. Don't take anything like that for granted, you know. And also, it happened when we were having fun with music, when we were trying something different, trying to switch up the game a little bit. Shout out everyone involved. Definitely shout out my wife, the main vocal. She sung the whole hook on the record. It's crazy. We made it in Auckland, New Zealand, which is crazy, you know. We never stepped foot in America. Shout out India, my wife, on the vocals. Shout out Bandplay, YPM Carter, and of course, Gucci. Lil Skies, Rage. This is one of my favorite songs I've actually done with Skies. Skies has been a big inspiration to me ever since he released Red Roses on Lyrical Lemonade. I've been a big fan of him, so it's really crazy to actually be working with him and producing one of his singles. So this song came about from experimenting. I made the beat maybe a year and a half before the song actually came out. I made the beat fully myself. So it's my first big record to come out that's fully produced by me, which is really special. I had a problem backing my work, you know, being happy with my own melodies. I've never really had a problem with drums. I've always liked my drum flow. They've come more natural. My loops, man, they haven't always been the best. And so back then, you know, I felt like my loops weren't good. But this track actually came from me stepping up and believing in my work. The record came about, Skies was recording with Sprite Lee. Sprite Lee is Lil Skies' engineer. He's the legend, you know, behind a lot of the records these days that Skies releases and has released in the past. They were recording one day. Lee told me to send a pack over. So I sent a pack of, I think, about 5 to 6 beats. I sent, you know, my favorite beat that I thought he would get on. I felt like the pack was missing one vibe. It was kind of that like rage, hard-hitting 808 vibe, and I had nothing on me but that weird beat that I made. I put it in the pack, not thinking anything of it, and Lee texts me and says, Skies got on the record. When I heard that, I was like, whoa, he actually got on that beat? And he was like, yeah, he got on it. So I guess this is the perfect example of actually being confident in your own work. At the time, I did not like the beat. I wasn't confident. Now that the song's out and it's been released, I'm like, man, I like that beat. Back yourself. If you're at home and you're feeling unconfident, send out that beat that you might not like. Send out that beat that you think is whack, because you never know what artist might hop on it. And so I want to thank Lil Skies for believing in my work. I want to thank him for, you know, believing in that sound. Sprite Lee for bringing the record together, for sending Skies my beats when they're in the session. So my thought process behind the Lil Skies Rage beat was the melody was whack, so I needed to make the drums hard. I made the melody, I made the loop. Maybe the day before that, I didn't love it, but you know, I was looking for something that was simple and that I could add a cool bounce to. When I dragged it into the project, I put the drums to it and I just did the hardest drums I could possibly do. I wanted the drums to outshine the loop because obviously I wasn't that confident in the loop itself. My whole thought process behind the beat was actually a rage aspect. I want it to be something that you could play live. I wanted it to hit, you know, when it was played through the speakers at the studio. The 808 was super loud. The melody was really low. I turned up the 808s, I turned up the kicks, I turned up the snares and the open hats. That's how the actual beat came together for Rage before I sent it off. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful and I hope you can apply some of these tips into your own beat making career. And in my next video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my 5 keys to becoming a successful beat maker. So stay tuned for that.